Hey everyone, this is Walt Bayliss. Thanks so much for joining me. This is the Business and People podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled to have a gentleman scholar on the call with me, somebody that has mastered the art of succession planning, making sure that your business has an exit strategy. And of course, that's where a lot of business owners make a really huge cash windfall, but you've got to do it the right way. He's also got he's working on his doctorate towards business administration and focusing on employee share ownership, being able to construct your team and build them with ownership in the businesses that you're working in. He's also a legend in strategic business and financial mentoring. He is none other than Craig West. Craig, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, it's really great. Now, as I was looking for, we're always looking for guests. You know, we're looking for interesting people who have done interesting things. And your name jumped out at me as somebody that's focused in on a specific area for business owners. And that's making sure that they can exit properly. How did you get started into that sort of space?
Yeah, my background's in accounting, which I absolutely hated, but ran an accounting practice, helped a lot of clients work through the normal things that accountants do with the compliance. Found that a little bit boring and really not significantly adding any value for clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so started to look specifically at what happened when they sold their business. And I did a master's degree in tax law, spent a lot of time helping business owners and other accountants on capital gains tax when people sold their business.
Yep.
What happened when I did that was I saw a lot of business exits that were really badly done. People selling at the wrong time, wrong structure, too much tax, wrong price, wrong buyer, you name it. Everything you could get wrong, people were getting wrong. And it was mainly because they didn't know what they were doing. And there wasn't really anyone out there that was specifically focused on exit planning.
Yeah.
It's a whole industry in the United States. So I actually took some time off. I did some study. I went over there and looked at what they were doing. And I found there was not really a lot of academic structure or process behind preparing a business for exit.
Right.
And yet, for most business owners, it's probably their largest asset. For most of us, it's a bigger asset than our family home.
Yeah, definitely.
And yet we don't know how to handle it. We don't know how to get out of it. We don't know how to cash it in.
Yeah.
So I decided to build a process to help business owners do everything they needed to do to prepare for an exit.
So obviously, here we are. So obviously, as we talk on this interview, you know, we were talking to people around the world, not just Australia, but in the States, in the UK, in Europe, wherever. Are the principles of preparing a business for exit, you know, without getting into tax law in each country, are they the same, Craig? Are we talking about the same sort of things that they need to have in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a couple of key things, but a lot of what we do with business owners to help them prepare for an exit is just smart business anyway, whether you're exiting or not.
Yeah.
For example, things like corporate governance. You know, once you get to a certain size, you need to have a board and you need to have a management structure and you need to have a reporting framework. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily stop when you're going to exit. Every business above a certain size should have that anyway, whether they're exiting or not. And so a lot of what we do, it's certainly internationally applicable.
Yeah.
There's only, you know, we've got a 21-step process and only one of those steps actually relates to taxation.
Wow. Okay.
So the other 20 steps are universally the same. Now, there's some rules that are different in Australia around putting money into superannuation versus in the US where you put into a 401k.
Yep.
But its underlying principle
Yep.
is basically the same. And the business itself and the preparation you need to do is largely the same.
Do you think, thank you, I appreciate that. Do you think that the average business owner, now I've sold 7 businesses along my time already, and we've got currently running 3. Do you feel that, you mentioned business owners when they're exiting, a lot of the time are doing it at the wrong time, they make a lot of mistakes. Do you think that the planning for the exit should be done way before the exit's even dreamed about?
Yeah, I always quote Steve Covey. Steve Covey's second habit of the 7 habits is begin with the end in mind. And he actually talks about exit planning for a business, you know, having a strategy around when and where you're going to exit. I have never heard anyone say they wish they'd started exit planning later.
Yeah, right.
They all should have started earlier. You know, universally, unfortunately, it's something that it's easy to avoid. It's easy to leave it. It's easy to say, oh, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
I'm only 50. Then I'm
it doesn't
only
even come into your
55.
mind when you're kicking start, when you're
No,
getting
it doesn't.
started. Yeah.
But if you think about it the other way around, if you think about the fact that whatever you do in business for the next 5, 10, 15 years, the big money, the cash, the check that you're going to get when you exit is the biggest money you're ever going to make in your life.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you spend as much time as possible trying to get that right?
Maximizing it. What are some of the
most
mistakes
people
that
don't.
What are some of the mistakes that business owners make early, Craig? Like, what are the things that they do early in their career that they need to take a good hard look at themselves now?
The first one is just don't do anything about exiting. They don't think about it. They don't have a strategy. They don't have an idea around who might buy their business or how. And I always tell people, that begin with the end in mind is really easy to say, but actually what you need to do is sit down and think, okay, if I want to sell this business for $20 million, what do I need to build?
Yep.
Now, people can do that with a house. If you want to build a $5 million house in Sydney, you go, okay, I've got to be near the water. I've got to have this many bedrooms. And I've got to have a pool. And it's easy.
Yeah.
But with business, people just ignore it. They just forget about it. So I think the key thing is start with, what do I want to build to get that exit outcome?
And when?
And it's the same. It's not always about money. Some people, they're not interested in selling their business for 20 million. Some people want to build a really good business to pass on to their children.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Think about what your end game is and design a business that does that for you.
Wow. So literally plan it out. Like, what am I hoping to get out of this in terms of, wherever you find yourself today, whether you're an entrepreneur getting started, whether, you're deep in the trenches of getting growth happening, all that kind of stuff. Think about, how do you want this to look 10 years, 15, 20 years down the line, and just literally put a map in place.
Yep. I just published an article on LinkedIn and it was called, "What does your business look like in 2039?
Wow.
As in 20 years from now.
Yep.
Because one of the worst things we do, and it's all business owners do it, one of the worst things we do is we leave everything and focus on the day-to-day. We've got to lodge a BAS, we've got to do this report, we've got to do that. There's a whole stack of other things going on, but we don't spend the time on the strategy. We're very short-term thinkers. We're worried about what's happening between now and Christmas at the moment.
Yeah.
Every business owner I talk to, I've got to do this in December, I've got to do that. You go, that's great. What are you doing in 2020? What are you doing in 2025? And what does 2030 look like? And, that's too far away. I haven't even thought about that, which is fine because you're busy, but it doesn't give you the best outcome. And this problem happens with, it happens in listed companies. CEOs of listed companies are so caught up in the stock market reporting cycle. They're worried about this quarter's results. Now, if I've got shares in, let's pick on someone, Westpac Bank, I don't care what happens this quarter. I care what those shares are worth in 10 years' time. I want the guy or girl that's running that bank to be thinking about how they build value over 10 years, not this quarter.
Yeah, sure.
And small business, whilst it's different, it's actually the same.
Tell me about that. Like, they still need to think the same things.
Absolutely. If you're a business owner, you need to think about, what do I want to do? What does my exit strategy look like? What's the end game look like?
Yeah.
And then what are the things I need to build and design and put in place to deliver that to me? I think so many people go into business and they get caught up almost like you go into you jump in a kayak in a river with rapid flowing current and you just have to go where the current goes. Most business owners end up doing something like that. They just get dragged along.
Yeah.
5 years later, they look back and go, shit, how did I get here? Why am I here?
I'm in the wrong river for a start.
And it doesn't do what I want it to do. And I have to work stupid hours and I'm not making the money I should be making and I can't sell it because it's all dependent on me. And they've just let that happen.
Do you see that often?
About proactively managing it.
Do you see that often, mate?
All the time.
Yep.
Every day.
Yeah. And am I right in saying,
that's part of the problem.
Say again, mate.
I think that's part of the problem. It's so common. People are so used to it. Everyone sort of go, oh, yeah, that's all right. Everyone
that's how business is.
Everyone does that. Yeah. It's
We're no different from anyone.
It doesn't have to be.
Can I ask you, Craig? It seems to me, as you're talking about the plan, you're talking about putting things in place right now that will help the structure in 10 years, 15, 20 years time. Am I right in saying that a lot of those things that you put in place don't take a lot of initial momentum to do? I mean, it might just be as simple as a form filled out or a contact here or there. Like there's not a lot that's needing to be done to make a big progress down the line. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And it's just about dedicating some time from the owner or the founder or the CEO or whatever structure you've got.
Yeah.
And just dedicate some time, but dedicate time regularly. Like every Friday, I work from home every Friday.
Yeah.
Hardly ever miss. And I just spend that day working on something in my business. I might be writing an article. I might be writing a new sales campaign. I might be designing some sort of new system or process or something that a new product that we're going to release. But it's all about working on the business. The problem is when you're running a business, you get so caught up day to day that you don't do that. And then I'll miss this Friday because we're busy.
Right.
And then you miss next Friday, and after 3 months, you never do it again. and you don't spend that time. And you're right. If you just dedicate the time to do it now, you'll get those things and just start ticking them off one by one.
Just have the continual little drips coming through as you
Absolutely.
So, mate, you, as well as being an expert in succession planning, of course, you're the CEO and founder of Succession Plus, which is your own company.
Yep.
Was it 20 years now that's been up and running?
10 years old this year.
10 years. How's that growth been for you?
Look, it's been, interestingly, I do follow my own structure. We designed a process and a methodology. We wrote a business plan that all the shareholders agreed with, and we update that annually. We have 2 conferences every year, and at the first one in the year, which is early in the year, late January, early February, we sit down and review that strategy. Where are we at? Are we still doing this? Is that still appropriate? Does anything in the market change? Does our business model need some refinement because it's no longer appropriate? And I think that's important. But what that's delivered is, substantial growth over that period of time. We've now got 20 odd advisors all around the country in every capital city. They're all trained and accredited with our process, so they understand our methodology.
Yep.
And what we're seeing, our marketplace hasn't changed, but there's a lot of baby boomers in Australia heading towards retirement. And most of them haven't done a lot about preparing well to retire, if they're a business owner, that is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you see the difference. Individuals generally go and see a financial planner, put money into super. They know what they need to do to get ready to go, okay, at 70, I'm going to retire, and I'll be able to do that. I can afford it. I've got investments, etc. I've paid off my home loan, whatever. As a business owner, we tend not to do that. And then it becomes a dramatic rash. It's like Panic Palace. We've got to suddenly work everything out.
Yeah. And
you can't do that when you're 70 years old. You're not in a good space to do that.
Yeah, because you have a time.
Much easier to do it when you're 50.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
So, how do you spend your days now? You've got, as you said, 20 associates around Australia. Are you still face-to-facing with customers, or are you more about managing the team now?
No, I'm much more about managing the team and managing our advisors. So they deal with the customers primarily. I still deal with a couple of key clients.
Yeah.
And what I spend most of my time on is dealing with relationships with people like Macquarie Bank, for example, or referral partners accountants that refer us work, because that's really key for our business.
Yeah.
But it's important to me to have the advisors dealing with clients day to day. But what I often do is sit down and look at the business and look at where I'm seeing stress or tension or roadblocks or barriers in our business, and working out what I can do about fixing them.
Yeah,
and sometimes I can't fix them, but I go and find out who can and talk to that person and find out what we need to do to just remove that. And I'm a bit of a fan around this, sort of 1% improvement model, where I'll go and find something and say, okay, if I can fix that little piece, it's only a little piece, but if I can fix it, 1% improvement.
Yeah, right.
And if you do that once a week, by the end of the year, by definition, that's a 50% improvement. It's a big number.
Yeah, it's a huge number, isn't it? But it doesn't feel like it as you're taking those micro steps forward.
And if you said to a business owner at the start of the year, right, I want you to improve by 50%, I can't do that.
Yeah,
you can do 1% a week, every week. Absolutely.
Touching as you said, a roadblock here, a blockage there, if we can iron something out in terms of a kink. So you started by saying that when you were going through that accountancy beginning of your career and hating that element of it, and now you're much more into that strategic role, not only for your business, but for your clients as well, helping them think about that strategy and iron out their own kinks and have those 1% improvements. Have you found a lot more joy in that sort of space for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I think people generally, everybody is far better when they're doing something they enjoy doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that doesn't matter whether you're a young kid, washing up dishes in a restaurant, or whether you're a 50-year-old accountant now doing strategic advice. You've got to be doing something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
People are naturally better at things they enjoy doing. But I also think for me, it's about, there's a whole niche space here, and I'm big into niches. I tell all my clients, find your niche and get really, really good at it. Don't try and do 55 different things. Just find one thing and be really, really good at it. Be the best at it that you can be. So I think you have to specialize to allow you to do that. But I also enjoy what I do. I don't get up every morning and think, oh my God, I've got to go to work, or I've got meetings with clients, or I really enjoy it. And I think that makes a big difference. I also think I work with people I like, both internally in my team, but also my clients. We don't work with any clients that we don't get on with or that we don't think we can help. So that makes a big difference as well.
Do you know, Craig, it's funny, as we're talking about business owners and growth and that strategic planning, and then about the enjoyment factor, something that I've seen happen a lot is that a business owner will have that spark, that idea. Let's get going. Let's, they get a couple of people around them. They've got a product. They've started. They're into it. 2-3 years later, you meet up with that same person and the stress lines are on their eyes, and they're absolutely buried and they are not enjoying what they set out and to create. Have you come across that yourself with your clients, that they have an incredible business, but they get so bogged in it that they lose the joy of actually operating it?
Yeah, and the big problem with that is most people go into business because they're particularly good at something.
Yeah.
Now, that something might be writing, legal opinions if you're a solicitor, or fixing air conditioning if you're a air conditioning, or whatever it might, sign writing, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're actually a good technician.
Yep.
When you get to a business where you've got 20 people reporting to you, and you've got BAS to lodge and payments and super and accounts and tax and HR and safety issues, you're no longer an air conditioning mechanic or a sign writer. You're now a business owner.
Yeah,
it's
right.
a completely different set of skills. You've never been trained for that. You've been trained 15 different ways to fix an air conditioner, but no one ever taught you about HR and super and BAS and all the problems that you're going to have there. So you're way out of your depth.
Yep.
And that transition from technician to business owner, I mean, Michael Gerber talks about this a lot in the E-Myth. It's the same thing. But it's really uncomfortable for most people. And I have several clients. I've got one at the moment I'm talking to, very successful business owner, turns over tens of millions of dollars. And, a couple of weeks ago, he said to me, mate, I'm just a good plumber.
Yeah, right.
And he likes going out. His favourite thing to do is just to jump in the van with one of the guys and go and fix up someone's dunny or someone's plumbing problem, because he's actually good at it and he enjoys it, and it's in his comfort zone.
Yeah.
But he's got 30 people working for him, 10 vans on the road, 2 factories. He's not a plumber anymore. He's a business owner. It's a big difference.
Coming back full circle then into succession planning, do you ever have to take that, strategy position with a client where they have morphed into the business owner and they're not enjoying it because they want to get back on, into the area that they love? Do you ever have the situation where you're removing the business owner from the ownership and putting them back into the environment that they thrive in?
And that's one of the great strategies. That's one of the things that can work really well. If you're a great plumber and you want to be a great plumber, be a great plumber.
Yep.
Doesn't mean you can't own the business. It doesn't mean you can make the same sort of money. And it actually makes your business more valuable if it's not all dependent on you.
Yeah,
you
right.
go and put a general manager in to run that business. You mentioned in the introduction, we do a lot of work with employee share plans. So we give our employees equity in the business they're working for, which aligns their interests with the owners and gives them lots more efficiency and lots more productivity as a result of their financial reward.
Yep.
Then the owner doesn't need to be the CEO. And there are lots of quite good successful businesses where they've grown over time and they really ramp up when the owner actually steps back and puts someone else in as the CEO.
Right.
And maybe you need someone that's got sales and marketing skills. It might be a completely different skill set to what you've got, but you go and do that, you can really ramp things up. But for most business owners, particularly white Anglo-Saxon baby boomer Australian males, they're control freaks, and that thought scares the crap out of them. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, right.
Because no one can run the business as well as them.
Yeah, sure. So they instead they work for 100 hours a week in a position that they hate and wonder why they're not getting ahead. So, mate, you mentioned the employee ownership program, which I think is a big area of expansion right now. Can you tell me, when you're talking to somebody, let's say an entrepreneur who's a couple of years into the journey, maybe they've got only 3, 4, 5 people in their team, but they're starting to grow. At what point should they be looking at an employee ownership program, do you think?
Yeah, we've put a lot of employee share plan ownership plans together for one employee.
Yeah, right.
So the question is, at what point do you get where losing a key person in your business will cost you money or lose clients or intellectual property? And for most business owners, that's only 2 or 3 people in.
Yeah, right.
Most small businesses, I've got 2 or 3 staff. You say, well, that guy there, if I lose him, I've got a very big problem.
Right.
Or if
and that's the point. You should literally try and tie them into some sort of equity.
Yeah, why not? I mean, the research around employee share plans is fantastically positive. There's not a lot of negativity around employee share plans. The government brought in some tax concessions 3 or 4 years ago, but it's not about tax. It's more about the productivity and efficiency improvements you get by aligning employee behavior with owner behavior. I often say to people, imagine if you could get some of, or even better, all of your employees to think and act like a business owner. You get a very different outcome.
I think most business owners would go, oh God, if only, that would be a fantastic.
Absolutely. They love it.
So Craig, the natural reaction I would imagine, and the pushback that you would get from a business owner when talking to them about putting an employee share ownership program together for them would be, I don't want to give away a piece of my company.
Yep.
What do you say to that?
That's often the case. The reality is they're going to give away or lose pieces of their companies as employees go.
Right.
You've got a key employee in your business that manage, to use the old example of the accounting practice I used to have, I had kept several key managers in there that had all the client relationships with their group of clients. One of those managers walked out the door. Clients went with them. Doesn't matter what I did or how I did it. Clients would go with them because they like that particular person.
Yes.
They've been dealing with them for years. They know them well. So my view is, if you want to build a larger pie, then it's about having a smaller slice of a much larger pie.
Nice. I like that analogy actually, because it's not about giving away a percentage of what you've already got. It's about building something bigger and taking a smaller slice, but then everybody's getting more as a result.
Correct.
Of it. Yeah.
And
as you said, like, you're going to lose a piece of. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to cut you off. You go.
If you've got employees on the same page that have also got a slice of the pie, then you're all aligned. You're all trying to do the same thing, grow the pie.
Yeah.
The bigger the pie, the bigger everyone's slice. Doesn't matter whether 4 people have got a slice or 6. It's about how big the pie can be.
I like that. What about guys, I want you to know that if you want to get in touch with Craig, come across to successionplus.com.au and really engage with this man in terms of strategic planning. So I don't want to take business away from you with the next question, but what about in the situation where we've got employee share ownership programs and you still have that person, they've got an equity stake and they want to leave? Like, what happens in that situation? They've got an ownership stake in the thing, and you've put that in place so that they stay, but their situation's changed, something's happened, they need to go. Does that dissolve easily if you've done it right?
Yeah, look, it's about how you design the plan up front, because that can happen. It doesn't happen a lot, to be honest. Once people jump into an employee share plan, they generally stick around for a long period of time. But as you said, their circumstances could change. Something happens, they've got to leave, or they've got to move into state because of a family issue or something, whatever it is. What you do with the employee share plan is design it so that if they leave, firstly, they're no longer eligible to be in the plan.
Yep.
And there's a mechanism where you can buy them back out.
Okay, yep.
And a funding structure around how that works. And ideally, the best thing with these plans is they've got a succession plan built in, because if I've got 20 people in my company, I've got 5 or 6 key people. Hopefully, if one of them leaves, I've got another person coming through the ranks that I can then add to the employee share plan to replace the person that's just left.
Okay.
I've got to have that designed into the plan up front.
So that links the two topics really well, because you talk about that employee share ownership program being a fantastic way to structure for an exit. So how does that work when you've got, as you said, 20 people, you've got a founder now that want to exit? Do they just naturally fit into that same, do the rest of the employees buy them out? Like, is that, again, you mentioned that that's a great way to think about an exit plan. Is that how that all plays together? You've got 20 people and 19 of them now buy out the other one?
Yeah, and look, gradually, the key thing about employee share plans is you've got to have time to make this happen.
Right.
You can't look now and say, okay, I want to retire in June 2020, which is 6 months away. I'm going to put a share plan and it'll work. It won't work like that. It's not the right way. But if you do it gradually over time, it actually meets a couple of key needs. What we're seeing with baby boomers, lots of them have made fairly serious money outside the business. Mm-hmm. We deal with clients that are pretty successful. They're making good money in their business. They're investing outside of it. So they don't necessarily need to get maximum cash dollars on the day they retire. But what they have got is generally a couple of other key requirements. One is they want the business to continue after them. That's their legacy type model. So many times you see a business that's called, Craig West and Sons, and it's about the business continuing on after I retire.
Yeah, sure.
That's number one. Number two, lots of baby boomers and lots of business owners now are saying, I want to make sure my employees are looked after.
Okay.
I want the business to continue after I leave, and I want the employees to be looked after. So how we design employee share plans is to try to deliver all of those outcomes. A financial outcome for the owner, a gradual buy-in for the employees, because in a lot of cases, they can't afford to write a check for $10 million to buy my business tomorrow because they haven't got the money to do it.
Yep.
But if they could do that over 10 or 15 years, it's quite achievable.
Yeah, sure.
And then the legacy piece, make sure the business is successful after I leave, and make sure my employees are looked after and rewarded
Yep.
for obviously years and years of service. Now, if you can design all that together using an employee share plan, what you create is a win for the owner, a win for the employees, and a win for the business.
Yeah.
And that always works. If you can get that structure right, it works really well.
Fantastic. What about the business owner, Craig, that you're sitting in front of them, they say to you, look, this all sounds great, but I've got 20 employees and only 5 of them are my people. The rest of them could come and go and I wouldn't care. Like, how does that work in that situation? Can you have a business owner that delivers a share ownership program to select people but not others?
Yeah, and that's typically the case. Now, I've got some clients that have got all their employees in their employee share plan. That works really well. But often it's exactly what you said. And I think if you think about a business with, 10 employees, you're going to have 2 or 3 that you really need. If they left tomorrow, you'd be devastated. You go, oh my God, they've got a very big problem here. There's another 5 in the middle that are good employees that you really want to stay. But if they leave, it's not the end of the earth. Mm-hmm. And then there's probably 1 or 2 that if they left tomorrow, you'd go, you beauty, about time. Right? The key is let's lock in those top 3. Yep. And ideally, what you can do is use the employee share plan as a reward mechanism for the next 5. Yeah,
great. Okay, to incentivize them to perform.
Yeah, what you want is the next 5 to be coming to your office and saying, how do I get into the share plan? I want to be in that group. I want to be part of that team. Fantastic. And you might have to have a pretty direct conversation that says, well, actually, Craig, you can be in that, but you really need to get your act together around X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And that creates a bit of a carrot for that employee to lift their game.
Yeah, definitely.
And ideally, I mean, if you think about any business, if you can lock in 70 or 80% of your workforce and motivate them through an employee share plan, you will see a dramatic improvement.
Fantastic, mate. I really value that advice, Craig, because I think so many small business owners, entrepreneurs have no idea about that kind of thinking and planning, and in terms of breaking up the control, I guess, and getting it into the hands of the people who are at an operational level, and how that can boost the performance of the company overall, as you said, creating a bigger pie that more people share in it, and of course, reducing the headaches of staff turnover and all that kind of thing as well. So, mate, I really appreciate that. I think that's huge advice. Thank you so much, Craig. I'm conscious of your time, so again, I'm really grateful for the chance to jump on and spend time with you. If you could stand on a stage right now in front of a group of entrepreneurs who've all just got their business registration numbers, they've all got their new business hats on, and it's day one for them, and you could deliver them a 5-minute, make sure you tick these boxes kind of thing. What sort of things would you say you must do starting out to get things in place?
Yeah, the key things would be begin with the end in mind. So start with what you want to end up with. Don't build a small business that you've got today, but start to build. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to waste money. You're a startup, you haven't got a lot of cash. You can't just throw money around. But you can start with a design of what your business is going to look like in 10 years' time. Begin with the end in mind and have that model in place. Don't make everything about you. So number 2 is don't make everything about you, which means don't control everything, don't manage everything, don't micromanage your staff. I still see clients today that have got a $10 million turnover business and they authorize every payment, they approve every document that goes out the door, and you just go, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
What kind of hell have you created for yourself by doing that?
Yeah.
That cannot be fun.
But never ending.
So don't make everything about yourself. Recruit the best people you can possibly find, ideally smarter than you and better than you at management or sales or whatever, financially, whatever the skill set you need. But then when you recruit those really good people, get out of their way. Let them do what they do freely. Do it their way, not your way, and you'll see that you can get a dramatic improvement. And then understand that you've got to share that pie with them to really ramp it up.
I love it. In fact, I think if a business owner or an entrepreneur can rewind and listen to that last 2 minutes alone, I think that would take anybody's business forward multiple steps. Craig, thank you so much. Mate, what are you working on? What are the plans now for you, for Succession Plus? What are the big goals?
Yeah, look, we opened internationally. We've been in New Zealand for quite a long time, but and I don't want to be nasty to New Zealand, but that's not international for most Aussies.
Yeah, sure, that's across the pond.
They're pretty close. Auckland for me is a lot closer than when I go to Perth. So we've been in New Zealand for quite some time. We opened in the UK though in July this year.
Brilliant.
So that was a big step. And we're looking now at other areas, English-speaking countries internationally that we can expand into. Fantastic. So we're looking at licensing our intellectual property into those other countries because they've all got a similar demographic around baby boomers that own businesses that are looking to get out. So that's sort of one side of it. I should finish my doctorate this year in employee share plans as a succession tool, which has been a pretty long, hard slog, and I'll be very pleased to get rid of it. But I've enjoyed the process. It's been a really interesting sort of, very different to what I do day to day. So that's been quite interesting. But other than that, I mean, that's sort of where I'm headed. I'm only 51, so I'm nowhere near ready to exit yet.
Yep.
But I have got an exit strategy in mind and documented.
I would hope so.
But look, the other thing is I'm still enjoying what I do. I enjoy working with clients. I meet lots of really interesting business owners that are doing really cool things and really interesting ways to make money that you'd never think of.
Yeah.
And I like learning and seeing that. I think it's really interesting to see what people are doing and how they're doing it.
Fantastic. The future Dr. Craig West. On succession planning, on planning for your exits and making sure that that payday is really the one you want, on making sure that your legacy stays in place. And of course, as we said, you can touch base with Craig and his team. You can get advice. You can become a client of Craig's now international team at successionplus.com.au. Craig, thank you so much for your time, man. I've really enjoyed it. I think the advice there for business owners is invaluable. And again, just a really thank you for the time and I wish you all the very best for the next journey.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Cheers, man.